Hello everyone, Darren here, and welcome back to Satisfactory. Now previously we had just set up a small modular frame facility, which is working flawlessly I might add, but today we're going to be building our very first steel refinery, and in doing so these two facilities will come together and allow us to unlock all of the tier 4 milestones in one fell swoop. After this, the game really does open up with long distance power poles, hyper tubes, Mark II miners, Mark III belts, and the coveted blueprints. With that, we can really start to branch out, leave grassy fields more permanently, and look to establish factories all over the world. But first, we do have to actually build the steel plant. So let's begin. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, you find me over at the modular frame factory, which we just gotten done building at the tail end of the previous video. Now, if you haven't seen that, there's no problem. I just thought it was worth pointing out a life lesson that I'd learned here, and one that's going to help with efficiency later on. So, very quickly, let's take a look before we head on over to our construction site for steel. So effectively, this is the end of the production line of the modular frame factory. The target output was 6.666 modular frames per minute. Very wholesome number indeed. We had 3 assemblers achieving that by overclocking them to 111.11 recurring % each, which meant that each of them was taking a power shard. But it was pointed out to me in the comments, why not just add a 4th machine onto the end, seeing as we're using a manifold sort of design, and that's a design that is a single belt rolling along, splitting off into each machine with diminishing returns every single time. So you're waiting on the first machine to get backed up, so that then more rods go this way, that gets backed up, more goes this way, etc, etc. Now initially, when I had drawn out the plans for this on paper, like I do with all my builds, at least early game anyway, and Excel, I decided that 1 splitter would be good to feed 3 assemblers. But I did end up abandoning that idea during the build and used a manifold design. So it super didn't make sense to then throw a power shard into each one of these. Ideally, you just throw them into maybe the one on the end, right? There's really no need to put it on all 3. However, going a step further, we've just added a 4th machine and underclocked them all. So instead of 111.11 etc, we now have 83.5, and that gives us 1.67 per minute. Now, to make sure that this number was correct, what you can do is type your previous output, or the output that you're desiring, and divide it by the amount of machines that you're going to go with. So 6.666 divided by 4 assemblers, gives us an output of 1.6665. Now you could try just typing that output in there, but what you can actually do is just copy and paste the actual formula and place it in there, hit enter, and boom, that's it. Now I've obviously already done it, and you just copy and paste those settings then to every machine. This is just good to know. It'll do, like, it'll obviously round up the numbers visually, but it's not doing that. It's actually behind the scenes, it carries on with the decimal places and everything. And in order to make this fit, very little had to be done. All that was changed was I've added this assembler, and then of course just added an extra splitter for the iron rods, and added an extra splitter for the reinforced iron plates that are coming out of here, and that's it. So everything's running the same, except we save on a little bit of power, because of course underclocking machine isn't a, well, it is, we've had this debate before. I'm just going to call it exponential, even though it's not quite the term, but it's certainly not really linear. It's kind of a hybrid of both. Basically, the more overclocked a machine is, the more power it consumes, and it's not one-to-one with the amount of resources we get out of it, right? So, and it's the same is true going the opposite direction. So underclocking those machines, we're making the same amount of modular frames we were before, but we're actually saving power. We save about 5 megawatts in total. It's not much, but the principle is the kind of interesting part, and if you were to build at scale, you would start to notice the difference. Which is why more machines at a lower clock speed is always better than less machines at a higher clock speed, if you're considering power. Alright, so that's pretty much it. Just thought it was worth mentioning that stuff. We're going to get going and heading over to our construction site. This is where I've chosen to build the steel foundry and the steel facility. So we have our coal power plant over there in the east in Blue Crater. We have now kind of still around grassy fields. This is the rock arch here. We have the construction site for where we're going to be building. We have our hub, of course, and then the modular frame factory. So we're building out the area nicely. One thing I wanted to do just beforehand is we had picked up a purple slug, and we've never researched it before because it took modular frames. Of course, we could manually craft them, but I thought we'll wait till we get the factory going, and then boom. We can now melt these guys down and get 5 power shards for every 1 purple slug. Powerful boys. And that brings us up to 26 in total. Now, as we are heading over... Actually, one thing I think we could still do... Yes, the Xeno Basher. We had unlocked that the previous episode. I'm just going to unequip the one I have. And then I'll just drop some cables, and we'll get crafting. Now, you can just tap the space bar, by the way, to craft. People are like, oh, if you triple tap it and do it quickly enough, it auto crafts or whatever. It's like... You could just tap it once. A lot of people don't know that. So before we head on over, as it is getting dark, I'm just going to look up to the sky. We'll have a look at our to-do list, which is pretty straightforward. It's foundations, then the miners, placing foundries. We haven't used foundries before. Constructors, assemblers, some of the logic of the belts, some of the cosmetics and milestones. So what we're going to be doing today is adding to our global production rate. So you can see it on screen now. I won't need to read out everything, but that's what we make everywhere right now. And now we're going to be adding the addition of 30 steel beams per minute, 20 steel pipes per minute, and 7.5 encased industrial beams per minute. So I had thought about scaling this factory quite large, and then I thought, not really any point yet, because we're actually limited by our belt speed. There's only 1 coal deposit that we're going to be tapping, that we have to mix with iron to get steel. And because we can only transfer at 120 per minute, no point designing a factory with a belt of 780 per minute in mind, the late game belt. So I tried to just go 1 up, because we should be able to get Mark III belts today. So we're going to be building with 270 resources per minute in mind. For that, we're going to require 9 constructors. So I'll just open up and hook these up now. So we need 9 constructors. We're going to need 2 assemblers. 6 foundries, which require modular frames, which is why I did the modular frame factory first, and then 4 miners. Now these will probably become Mark II miners, but we'll just leave it as Mark I for now and upgrade a little later. And then the last thing is just a little bit of storage containers, so 3. That's it, because we have 3 resources that we're making. Alright, it is firmly nighttime, so we're going to head over to our location. We'll just make a little run out there, and I might wait till it gets a bit brighter before we start building. Alright, I've arrived at the Pillar of Light. Something I'm just going to do really quickly, I suppose we could scan for iron. And we can see that right in front of me there are 2 deposits, and there's 2 further ones just over there. We're just going to be using the 2 that are in front of me. So I'm just going to clear these deposits of their top minerals and get them ready for extraction, and also clear out some wildlife. Alright, so the sun is finally beginning to rise. I've just kind of cleared the top deposits off the iron nodes, killed some of the wildlife, and also picked up some blue slugs that were kind of lying around. So effectively we have a nice big workspace to work with here. So we have a limestone deposit, which is normal, and then we have 2 iron deposits right there, and then our coal is just up on that ridge right over there. And that's pretty much where we're going to start our build from. So I just thought I would show you where we are. Just pull back a bit. So we have this other crater down here, and our build is going to actually extend over that crater somewhat. I had another build idea in mind that actually used the crater, and we used some of the limestone deposits that were down there, but I've since changed it. Maybe in the future, I've actually saved it as a separate kind of thing that we could possibly do in the future, but for the scale of this factory, it's not big enough to need that stuff yet. But if we ever ramp it up, we will need that limestone. Anyways, I digress. So let's just get up into that ridge, have a look at our coal, and then we can kind of work out the dimensions and where we need to build from. So we'll just drop down, I don't know, whatever, big foundation here, and we'll just build a staircase all the way up. Alright, an enemy here. Alright, what a loser. I always feel really bad about killing them. Alright, let's get rid of that. Are we good? Okay, cool. So here we are on our big fat coal deposit. It's pure, so we could get a lot of coal out of this thing. I think if you overclock, you can get like 1,200 or something, but the best belt in the game is 780, so you can never actually extract it, which is why some people are calling for miners that have like 2 outputs rather than just 1, so you could have 2 belts coming out of it. That would be cool. I hope they do that for 1.0. I just think it'd be pretty awesome. But there's it's a whole thing. Apparently there's like rounding errors, floating point number errors that cause issues with going up that high. But it is strange that you can bring the number up that high and not do anything with it. Anyway, so let's start putting down our foundations. So effectively, we'll start here. We'll use 2-meter foundation, hold control to snap onto the world grid, and let's see if we can get this right. So we'll start there just as an example. So we're obviously cutting into the rock way too much. What about here? So you'll see that the rock is protruding through my foundation, which we do not want. So we'll just go 1 on top of that. And now we'll put a 2 on top of that. Right, so I'm just raising the whole thing by 1. So yeah, now we're going over to the point where our rock is not being protruded. Or sorry, our foundation has nothing coming through it, right? Nice clean foundation. So that's how you know the space. So just to give you another indication, if we went to here, the rock is sticking through, right? We can see it right there. Don't want that. If we go up a layer, then we're covered. That's where we do want to be, okay? So just going to get rid of those bottom bits, and we'll just work from, oops. We'll just work from this one. And just cover the foundation. And remember, we held control to get onto the world grid, and that's super important. Okay, so let's get our miner out. And if we look at the rock, it'll still snap on top of the foundation. So we're going to angle it facing directly west. Okay, so the actual miner is facing directly west. And that's pretty much it. Okay, so as per the floor plan diagrams, which you can hopefully see on screen now, we're going to be building the second floor first. So there's only 2 floors. The first floor, the second floor. That's what we're just going to call them. So we're going to build the second one first, because it actually helps us work out where the bottom floor is going to go a lot more easily, and it's way smaller. So the first area that we're going to be working with is a 25 by 7. Just to reiterate, these are the foundation count. I've removed the kind of height count that I had in there because it was just confusing people. We'll talk about how high up the walls are later. You can kind of see it anyway in text if you take the moment to read. The important thing that you need to know is where the miner goes. That's our M symbol. Has a direction facing out, so we can see that it's facing west. Then we have the F's, which are for foundries. C's are for constructors, and the A's are for assemblers, okay? Although there's no assemblers up here, actually. That'll be on the bottom floor. Alright, so let's get working with this. So we'll just build this out one more. And by the way, the placement of these is really... I've tried to be as accurate as possible on that floor plan. So if you think like it's like one grid space over, it's not. It's pretty close to the pixel of where it should be, okay? Alright, so if we just do this, let's go to about there. Alright, so our miner is now totally covered, and we've left a gap of space between where the miner's foundations are and like the edge. And then we have a gap at the back as well. A nice big foundation there. One here where the miner does come over slightly, or about half of the foundation, but this is where we want to work from. So this is a 25 by 7 foundation. So we've already done 3, so we'll have to do just 4 more. That's our 7, and then we need to go to 25. So, in fact, I'm just going to get rid of this one, and we'll just count out from here, because it's just easier. So that's 10. And then we'll obviously do another 10, and then a 5. Alright, there we go. That's 25. So we're ending up pretty far over there, right? This is where we're aligned north and south. Anyway, so we'll bring this down again by 6 for a total of 7. Now we'll just close this all the way. Alright, there we go. So that is our 25 by 7. Pretty simple. The next one is going to be a small room of 4 by 3. So if we have a look here, we've got one gap. We'll just come down to here. That's 3. Another 3. Another 3. And another 3. And we'll leave it there. The diagram actually says to go do a 3 by 3 here, but it doesn't really need to be done on this floor. We'll do it on the bottom floor. I'll explain why later. You can do it. It's fine. Don't worry if you do it. It's fine. But I'm not going to use foundations for it. I'm going to use the railing instead, because it's going to be part of a stairwell. So I'll be using this as opposed to a foundation. Alright, so 25 by 7, a 4 by 3, and the same is true for the 3 by 3 over in the corner over there. That's going to also be a stairwell. So we can come down now. Get down off the ground. Or get down to the ground. Ow. Okay, so that's what we're left with, right? We have 1 foundation on this side, 3 on this side. It's great. Alright, walls are the next thing. So we'll grab our wall and make sure it's on the very edge. So not on top of the foundation, but on the bottom of it. So the top of the wall is aligned with the top of the foundation. Yeah, that's it. Alright, so bring this down all the way to 10. And that's the height that we're going to be working with. So we're going to grab another 2 foundation and bring it down to the bottom of the wall, and this is our new height for the floor. That's why I wanted to do that one first. So, if we have a look now at the... Well, I'll just display it on screen real quick. The other floor plan, so this is going to be the ground floor, the first floor. This is the floor plan here. We can see the red sort of squiggly lines and stuff. That's where the cliff is, the outcropping is kind of blocking us in. So it's just kind of a reference point to see where you are there. There's 3 miners down here, of course, for the 2 iron deposits, and then 1 for the limestone. And we're just going to do the rooms rectangle by rectangle, just to make it a little easier on ourselves. So this is exactly aligned with the previous floor plan. They stack on top of each other, and I've actually hollowed out the floor plan for beneath, so you can actually kind of see where it sits. So effectively, what we'll start with then is just grab our 2 foundation here. This has to come out by 4, and then we have to go back down all the way 12. So it's actually, we'll just go to 10, and then add 1 at the end. Alright, so that's 10 plus the one I'm on, and plus the one we're going to add down at the bottom. And that's a straight up 4 by 12. So again, facing north, 4 by 12. Simple as. Okay, and you can see we're coming over the actual deposits now. So now we're just going to do a 1 by 1, so that's just 1 foundation there. Then we're going to do a 3 by 4. So 3, and then to 4, and that's that. Okay, so just to make sure that this is working, we'll put down our miner. So it's not going to find it initially, as I've mentioned before. You'll have to look at the edge of the actual deposit. We're going to face this one. This one's going to actually face straight west as well. This one is going to face straight north. Like so. Okay. And the next thing then will be to do the limestone. So this room is a 7 by 8. So we'll come out to 7. And then it's by 8, so counting the one we have, brings it to there. Alright, there we go. A 7 by 8 room that's now been attached. So we have to add the miner on. This one's a little bit more tricky because of the way it's so close to the foundations. Just cut away a part there. Grab a miner. And we're going to aim it straight east. So just facing basically over to the other ones over there. Actually, that worked pretty well. I thought it was going to clip through the ground a little bit, but no, it's totally fine. Okay, so the final room has to be done now. It's a 27 by 10, or the second to final room. We're going to start it from here. Well, actually, sorry. This is going to be the 3 by 3. So 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. 3. So that's going to be going straight up to line up with the bridge. This is going to be a bridge. And this is going to be a stairwell. So the stairwell is going to go straight up. And then you can walk across this little bridge to get to the upper floor. It's one of the ways up anyway. So the next room, 27 by 10. So pretty big one. So we can go out to 10. Well, we just go straight out like that. And then we can go across basically 26. We're right on the edge of the gas. I think if we're on the very edge, the gas actually might, yeah, creep into the building somewhat. But we can delete that in the future once we get nobelisks. So that's 11. So you can see we're going way over the crater. 21, and then 5 more, is it? Or 6 more? Yeah. So this should come out by 2 more than where we're lined up with. So that seems right to me. And then we're coming down to 9 for a total of 10. Alright, and then we'll just basically fill this all in. So again, that was just a 27 by 10. And this should just go straight across. So you'll know if you're at the right height, because it's not, the ground isn't clipping through any of my foundations. Trees are, which we'll clear with the chainsaw tool in just a moment. But I think, and I thought it was worth leaving them there just so we could see, everybody could see, like, if you are following along, you can see exactly where things are cropping through. So 27 by 10, just going to fill this all in now. Alrighty, so that's our 27 by 10. Now we're going to do an 8 by 3, starting at the very edge. So we'll go all the way out to 8. I'm just do this 3 times over. Alright, so this is sort of like a corridor that's going to lead you out. However, something I didn't realize when I was planning it was that we run straight into a hill. So maybe the doorway would have to be here. And just sort of like a little staircase lead you out this way. I think that's probably what I'll do. This hill has made it not as elegant as perhaps I thought it was going to be. But it should be fine. Alright, there's actually a hard drive site here, so how can we not go and get it? I've already cleared the wildlife, but what's required? Oh, it's just screws. Bonk. Easy enough. So we'll get that. We'll do it live. God damn it. Let's get a pop that in there. Bonk. And we'll see what we get in 10 minutes. Also some circuit boards. Probably just throw that into the awesome sink, to be honest. Although some of these things could be used for unlocking things in the MAM, which can be nice. Oh, there's some more. Alright, so is that it? I think we might be done for all the foundations. If I'm not mistaken, I think we are ready to go. So let's mark that off our list as foundations done. The next one was doing the miners. So the miners are actually in place, aren't they? Yeah. Alright. You see this miner? It's no good. It's Mark 1. We want to use Mark 2 miners. I was going to use this time to talk about place the miners and also talk about the various rates and underclocking, overclocking, and how everything's going to divide and use the planning document. However, we're using Mark 1 miners, so the numbers are a little off. But what we can do is temporarily throw in some overclockers. So you don't have to do this if you're following along, but maybe this will just help me get my numbers right so you can see what we're talking about. So 112.56 is how many parts per minute we need out of this machine. And we're going to be sending that into 4 constructors. I know it's a little awkward. In future, we'll actually be underclocking this when it becomes a Mark II miner. That's kind of the interesting thing. A bit more of a simple one is the 2 iron mines here. These could be overclocked massively to do 135 parts each. They're both going to basically act like, well, they're sort of sisters. They'll be doing similar things. And as you can see, our MAM research is just completed because I was trying to figure out how to talk about this for quite a while. Let's go check out what we got. Alright, so we've got stitched iron plates, which uses wire and iron plates to make reinforced. So that cuts out the need for rods and screws, right? Whereas this one doubles down on using more screws and more plates to give you a higher volume. And then we have iron wire, which just uses iron to get wire. Quite nice. But don't think I need that. I think stitched iron plates is the way to go. Definitely makes things a lot easier, especially since a bunch of copper deposits are very close to iron deposits in this region. So we'll definitely make use of that, I think. Alright, let's get rid of this. Alright, back to this. So, like I'd said, we've set both of these now to 135 each. And we'll get up and do the coal one in a moment. That's supposed to be set to 270, but I don't think there's any way I can do that. I don't think so. So what we'll do is we'll just grab a wall from here, bring it all the way down. And then I'm also going to get the conveyor wall too, sit it on top. We'll get our lift, bring it down. It's reversed. These will need to be Mark III in the future. And just get some height here so we can just feed these in nicely. Bring out our belt. We'll start to rotate it so we get a nice 90-degree angle. Bring that back as far as it goes. Have to get out of the way of the machine. There we go. And just feed that straight in to its buddy. This one can go pretty much straight in. Maybe we could still angle like so. Just to make it look a little cleaner. Alright, so we're feeding straight up to that floor, which is where the foundries are going to go. I think I don't have a way of getting up and down there yet, so I'm going to create the stairwell right now. So if you followed my series before, or if you've seen it in previous videos, what I normally do is we carve out a room that is 3 by 3. Like so. We put a door on the center. So that's our little 3 by 3 room. Come in, and then on the left, we'll have 2 stairs that lead up. And we just basically do this in sets of 2. Oh man, this is always so finicky. Alright, we'll just do that, and I can attach onto it. 2, there we go. Just satisfactory things. There we go, that one worked. Alright, get rid of that one. So up to 2, and then we're just going to go across, build the catwalk crossing to there, and then I just keep doing this in lots of 2 until we get to the floor up there. Alright, there we go. Stairs just like that. So we've got stairs that lead all the way up to the top now. This is our little bridge that'll take us across into this room, and this is where our iron is now coming in. So let's sort out the coal next. I'll actually have to maybe move some of these bushes out of the way now, so we'll break out the chainsaw. Right. That's the bushes cleared. So we've got a nice open floor for us now. So what we'll have to do is start placing in... So we'll list off the miners as done. I think that's basically finished, right? We just look into this. I don't know if we can get 270 out of here. Oh, we can actually, but obviously we don't have a belt capable of that. But we'll just set it to 270 anyway, because we know that's the number that we're going to be dealing with. So the 2 iron miners are doing 135 each, so 2 of them is 270. A foundry, if we have a look at, I guess, the recipe for steel ingots, which is made in a foundry, it's 45 iron ore and 45 coal per minute coming in to give you 45 steel. So that's how it's going to work. So that's why we have 270 parts per minute coming out of the coal miner, and 2 iron mines that are producing 270 combined as well. So the numbers are even. Alright, so next up is placing the foundries. So let's begin. Alright, so I just took a little break just to check my spacing and things, and then I decided to paint the foundation so we can see where the different buildings are going to go, but then it turned to nighttime, so I've been spending a long time trying to figure out spacing. So during the night, I decided then to just put walls all around the building, just on the very bottom level, just to kind of clean it up a little bit, just to make it look a little bit more orderly, and a bit easier to see where one begins and where one ends. The other thing then was I decided to color all the different foundations based on the floor plan that we had looked at earlier. Colors are one-to-one with that, so green for foundries, orange for constructors, and a sort of a pinkish color for assemblers, yellow for miners. So we'll see that kind of stuff downstairs as well where the assemblers are, but basically up here there's actually not that much machines when you really look at it, right? We're not using a lot of the floor space that we have here. Some people had actually brought up that they're colorblind, so I do apologize. We're going to look into that and see what colors I should use that would be better to kind of differentiate the different tiles. My dad's actually colorblind, so I should really know about this and have thought about it, but I just don't know the colors that I should use, so I'm just sticking to the ones that I had before. Hopefully people can follow along either way. Anyway, it's not that big of a deal in this particular episode because there won't be that many like overlapping tiles. You'll see what I'm putting down on what, so it should be fine. It's actually more for myself in this particular episode, but I can definitely see in the previous one where we had rows right next to each other of different colors why that would be like, yeah, confusing. Alright, so what we're going to start with is obviously the foundries, the kind of mainstay of this entire build, and we're going to push it all the way over to the very edge. So actually, just let me run upstairs for a second. Just built out this little walkway temporarily for us to see things. So you can see that the white bounding box of the foundry is aligned to the edge of this foundation, right? So pretty simple. And then we'll go another one and another one. So again, I'd recommend using the floor plan to kind of see where this is, but I guess it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 9 foundations over and then down 4. And you start with that one, I guess, from the corner. Anyway, that might confuse people more, but anyway, there you go. Right, so that's 3 foundries down. I want to get all the buildings down first, and then we can do the logistics. You don't want to start doing logistics and then realize your spacing's been off, and mine still very well could be. So let me just see exactly where this is kind of supposed to go. I think it's... we got to keep them lined up together, so the seam, the bounding box still lines up at the seam here. But this one is different. This one has to be pushed in 2, I think. Maybe even 3. No, I think 2. I think there. So 2 from the line. So 1, 2 with the nudging tool. And then we've got this gap about here. So I think our leg comes over the edge just by 1, I think. Again, we'll test that out in a moment when the other buildings are down. And then we just snap onto that one. So there's just a gap between these two. It's to do with what I'm going to be sending out these wall holes downstairs. And that's going to be to do with the placement of the constructors. So let's do that next. So the constructors are much more simple. Just turn them to face right. And we'll make sure they're center aligned with the foundation, just like so. They take up the width of the foundation, totally fine. But lengthways, they go just over on either side. So that's fine. So just 2 in a row like that. Very simple. And they should be fine. So the idea was that they should be able to line up and send their stuff out that way. And that looks like it's totally fine from here. So that seems okay. The next one then would be here. This is going to be center aligned this way. Move that back one. Bonk. Then another one. And then this one is the final one. Alright. So the question is, do these kind of line up? Let's see. Or their outputs. Right, so this has to go like that. This needs to move over by 1. So I messed that one up, I think. Okay, so if we had a splitter here just for as an example, and then we were to drag that out there. Yep, so now that is lined up with that. Good, yeah, that's what we need. So the spacing was just 1. So for its bounding box, it's sitting on the vent. The leg isn't. That's, I think, what threw me off. Alright, cool. So I think that's pretty much it. Let's just check on these ones as well. So is this supposed to go straight in there? I think so. And I don't think it does. So then this one needs to move over to the right. There we go. Get rid of this one. Okay, so a good way to kind of gauge it now is that that leg rests on the seam of the foundation. That this is straight in front, right? It's super straight, and you'll know that that's straight because it's aligned with the center of a wall. Like this. So yeah, so hopefully that kind of makes a bit more sense. That should be the alignment corrected on these. So that's kind of the top floor. We could go downstairs now. Well, that's foundries. That's not all the constructors, though. So let's do the rest of the constructors. That's the 6 foundries are now in position. We're not going to be changing anything to do with them. They're just going to do steel. So that's 45 of both resource in and 45 of steel ingots out. No changes to overclock or anything. We're all good with that. I'll just set these ones as well. Just copy and paste their settings in. Boom. Great. Alright, so I'm just going to hop downstairs. Maybe actually we can do it from up here. Let me just see. Yeah, so we have our colors in place so we can see what's going on. So the purple, 1, 2, and 3, they're going to be storage containers. Purple looks different because there's a shadow on it from the space elevator right now. Then there's the assemblers, and then there's the constructors. So the constructors are the super easy ones to do. So I'll just make sure we're... God, I love the fact that we can lock these things in place now. It's so good. Alright, there we go. Holding control, we should just be able to keep snapping ahead. Alright, and they're all going to be doing concrete. So they're taking in the limestone nodes ore into these 4, and then they're going to be sending them into the encased industrial beams assemblers. So these assemblers are going to face forward. And we want them to... So you can see there's a floor hole here, a wall hole, I should say, I'm standing on. That's going to bring this down, like with an elevator or a lift. Like so, right? So the lift goes all the way down. And it's in the center of the foundation. So what we need to do is just make sure that the assembler is lined up with that. So this input needs to be lined up with the center. That's all. And do we want to bring it all the way back? Doesn't really matter either way, I don't think. It's either too far forward or too far back either way, so that's fine. And then for the next one, as far as I know, there is no more wall hole. The other wall hole is just going somewhere else. So then that could just snap onto its buddy. I think that's it. These last ones are then going to be... We'll hop down for these. These are going to be the storage containers. Just 3 of them. And they're going to come right out in the center here to the very edge. Okay. And I think rather simply, we could even do this right now. Well, let's just say that we've done all the constructors. We've actually done all the assemblers even now. We'll have to set their rates thinking about it, so I'll have to check on that. But we could bring this down right now. Straight to here. Actually, it's not. It needs to be not reversed. So just press R to get the default. And then send that into there. Just like that. Same thing's going to happen here. Cool. And then this one's going to be doing the encased industrial beams, so it's going to come from the assemblers. Alright, so that's our storage containers in place, our assemblers are in place, our constructors are in place as well. But we need to set their rates. So they're going to actually be doing 9.38 per minute, concrete, of course. So copy and paste that, and we'll just send it into each of these 4 machines. And that's going to go over into the encased industrial beams. But we don't have that recipe yet, so we can't do anything with it. We'll have to wait until we get the milestone. So this area of the factory isn't really going to be operational till we actually toggle off the first few milestones. Alright, so now that everything is lined up, we're going to start working on logistics. You find me up at the Foundry level, and this is where logistics are going to get kind of interesting for the series. It's where we're leveling up from beginner to intermediate, because we're not going to use a manifold system. Instead, we're going to attempt to load balance the system, but the numbers are starting to get a little bit more finicky. So if we have a quick look at steel ingots, it's pretty easy. 45 iron ore and 45 coal become 45 steel ingots. The reason it's easy is because at least the iron and coal are in equal numbers, so it should be generally kind of easier to work with, at least in your head mathematically. You don't have to think too complicated about it, but 45 is kind of an awkward number in and of itself. No miner is really going to do 45. Most of them do 60 at normal, so it's kind of awkward. You kind of have to multiply it and maybe overclock or underclock to get to 90, split that in two. You get me? It gets a bit messy. So that's one thing. Then we're going to be doing steel beams. These are made in constructors, and that's what some of the constructors are for. The steel beams take in 60 ingots and put out 15 beams. So the amount you put in for what you get out is kind of low, or at least it feels that way. The rate starts slowing down dramatically for the volume that has to take in. The next thing then would be steel pipes. This is where it starts to get a bit squirrely, as they say. We take in 30 ingots, and we put out 20 pipes. Now you might be like, well, whatever, what's the big deal? But the big deal is the fact that this is 30, but these produce 45. Suddenly we've got a bit of an awkward number to work with. Not crazy though. 15, 45, and 30, these have common denominators at 90, right? They divide into each other nicely there. So let's work this out. So what we're going to do is just quickly break up the sort of flow diagram that I have to just handle one chunk at a time. The first thing we're going to do is work on getting the coal and the iron into the miners, into the foundries at an even load balanced rate. And we'll look at what we're doing after the fact later, because we've got two sets of foundries, two sets of three. We've got one coal deposit doing 270 ore per minute. And that's going to divide it into two, so we have two lines of 135. Each of those lines is going to go into one of the groups of foundries, one of the sets of three. And it's going to go in evenly. The good thing with that is a splitter splits three ways. So once we have our line of 135, we just split it three ways evenly, and that's 45, 45, 45. Easy. That's done. Same is going to be true of the iron mines. Unlike the coal, we've got two iron mines, not one. It's almost like it's been split for us, because we're going to set it to make 135 each. So that's going to be 135 for one line, and 135 for another line of the foundries. So that's how we're going to bring them in. So to get started, let's get our splitter and bring it pretty close, just over the vent line of the foundation. And I'm going to put the iron on the bottom, and the coal is going to go on the top, or up and over, I should say. And we need to bring it up to 3. A height of 3 will do it for us. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Alright, so now we can get rid of the two bottom ones. We don't need them anymore. Alright, so that's going to be iron on the bottom, and this is coal. Now, we don't necessarily need these in place, but I like to kind of have them. So what we'll need to do is now snap on. We could snap on this way, and this will push my tube back so that if we wanted to, we could get rid of this and just feed over and into it. Now, it would kind of clip a little bit, and people have told me there's another way around it, but it's fine. I'm not going to do it this way. We're actually just going to leave the splitter in position, floating there. I'm okay with that. It's a little wasteful. If you really care about your 2 iron plates and your 2 cable at this point in the game, I don't know what to tell you. But I think aesthetically it'll look a little bit nicer just to leave it there. So we're going to start down at the bottom and rotate this around. Do the same down here. And the same down here. This can then just go straight over. Oh, did I face that the wrong way? I must have. Sorry, my bad. Yeah, my bad. There we go. Alright, cool. So that's done. Let's just get some... Actually, we don't need to get distance on it. We'll just hook that back up as well. Alright, so just to go over this again really quickly, we have our 3 foundry setup with our splitter on the bottom to handle iron ore going into all 3 inputs. And then on top, we have our splitter for coal, which is going to be divided into the others. I've left the splitters on the edges, even though they don't need to be. They're not actually splitting anything. It's just kind of like a solid right-hand turn. I think it can just look a little bit neater doing it that way. I've also done this now for the second set of machines. So they're done in the exact same way. Coal is on the right, iron is still on the left. It's done in the exact same way it was before. So now we need to hook them up to the actual coal miner and the iron miners. So we'll start with coal because it's a bit more complicated. So what we're going to do is just get rid of that belt. We're actually going to bring it to... Let's get the stackable conveyor pole and move it there. Actually, sorry. Let's get a splitter. We got to start with a splitter first. And we'll bring it to the center of this foundation. Right there. Bring it up to 3, just like so. And then what we'll do here is grab this. And just feed this in. That's fine. Little curve. Right, so our coal is going in and up, straight up to that one. Now, if this is spaced correctly, right, so center the foundation, but over by 1, it should allow me to bring this belt straight into here with a really nice curve. Yeah, so it's got the same curve on both sides. That's satisfactory. Okay, so what we'll do now is we'll grab our stackable pole, and we can say that this is where the stack begins. 1, 2, 3, so every third increment, and it's going to be over to the right. Yeah, so there. And we just stack 2 on that. So then we go 1, 2, 3, so every 3 lines. 1, 2, 3. You can actually go way further with these, but I just like to do smaller increments. Alright, and this is where we want to go to. So we'll just move this by 2. There we go. So let's start drawing out this belt. Now, each of these are going to be handling 135 resources per minute, which needs a Mark III belt. Because, of course, a Mark II is 120. So we're only doing Mark I belts for now, until we start making some steel, and then I can go over everything when we actually unlock the milestone for it. So we'll send that in. So there we go. So nice and even. Let's make sure that that was done right. Yeah, it is nice and straight as well. Cool. Alright, just wait for this to autosave. Super quick. Alright, so we'll go do the iron now. So I guess one of the easier ways to do this is to bring this out. And if we can line it up with that line there. So do you see the line I'm looking at? Right there. It doesn't need to, but I just think it would look nice if we did so. And that way it would be very symmetrical. So we'll grab this, turn it. Yeah, that's lined up. It has to be on that seam. Perfect. Alright, just bring it like this. Bring this all the way down and hug it up to the far end. Alrighty. And then the other one should be able to travel underneath the conveyor stackable poles. That's the idea. So we know that we wanted to go to the middle of the foundation, but over by 1. So then we go 1, 2. And then we bring that forward. And now we can put down poles. So we'll have to go back a bit further. So we'll go 1, 2, and 3. This is 3 from this one. It's glowing yellow because it's just telling me it's intersecting with something else, which is just the stackable pole, I think. Oh, sorry, we don't need to go that far. We'll just stop around here. So it needs to go in there. Oh, Darren made a silly mistake, huh? We're in the way. What a shame. It was working out so nicely. But this happened, this just complete coincidence happens to be there. We could have had it be there, but then everything wouldn't be symmetrical anymore. That'd be horrible. So what we'll do is we'll just bring this to here. Bring it in. So, that's 1. And then we cut the middle gap there. So what we could just do is cut this middle gap and say that it never happened. Alright, so now our gap is of 6, not of 3. Still works out. Totally fine. And should we just in case there's issues, the belts can look weird when you sever something like that, so just put that back. And maybe the same for here. Okay, there we go. So that's all our logistics hooked up for this floor. Oh, for the foundries, I mean. Obviously, we have to do the outputs next. But that's all the inputs. I don't think I've forgotten anything, have I? So that's iron going into the bottom, coal's going into the top, iron's flowing along on a different line. That's all been split into these ones. Yeah, cool. I think I just need to set these. Oh no, they're already set. Sweet. Alright. So that was one of the easier parts done. Now we're going to get to the more complicated part. We'll start with this group first. Alright, so I just needed to get some height again so we can actually work out the logistics from a bird's eye view. So effectively, the foundries are broken into two groups, right? We have our first group here, second group over there. They're all doing the exact same amount. They're taking in the same amount of ore each, right? There's no differences so far, but there is going to be when it comes to the outputs. So if we take a look at the flow diagram I've created, you can see how messy it's going to get. The important thing to know is that the first group of foundries have two constructors next to them, and they're doing steel beams. The second group of foundries have three constructors. So two are doing steel beams, just like the first group, but the difference on this one is that they have the additional steel pipe constructor as well. Now the steel pipes require 30 steel ingots to go into them. And we're going to grab 15 from each group. And that's why we have a dotted line moving across the body, the length of the entire group, if that makes sense. So we'll put that away for a second, and we'll have a look now. So, effectively, 45, 45, and 45. So what's that times 3? That's 135. We've got two constructors, there and there, that need 120. So we're left over with 15. So we're going to send that 15 down there. And this group is going to have the exact same situation happen. They're going to be left over with 15, because there's two constructors. And that's what the third constructor comes into play for. The two groups of 15 are going to kind of merge and go into that final one. Basically. Alright, so let's begin. Hopefully we're all up on the same page with that. So that means that our first foundry actually needs a splitter. It's going to immediately jump down off the ground. The next thing then is going to be mergers the whole way. But it's going to go out to the left. Or to the machine's right. And then we're going to have a splitter here. Like so. Alright, so this goes in there. That's 45. That's 45. And that's 45. So we got to break it up. So 45, if we do this and this, and then also give it a third output, like so. Now we've got a situation where this one splitter is splitting 15, 15, and 15. And if we just merge it back, that means we've gotten 30 off of this, right? So 15 plus 15 is 30, going into there, merging with the 45. So that's going to be 45 plus 30 plus another 45 down the line. That's 120. And that's exactly what we need. Because in here, we're going to be doing steel beams, requires 60. And we've got two of them. So that's a nice and even 120. Speaking of nice and even, this isn't lined up correctly. So let's get that right in the middle. Not that it matters, but it matters to me. Which means it matters. Alrighty then. Cool. So that's sorted. Then this just needs to go to there. Right, so it means that we need to bring this up and over and out of the way. So what we'll do is somewhere maybe here. Just put down that stackable pole. That can go straight across. Right, so there's 15 getting out of this place. And this is just going to be a straight up merge job yet again. So we'll put a merger right here in the center, sending it off forward. Now, we're sending 60 into both of these machines, so 120 steel ingots is going in, but we're only getting 30 out, right? 15 and 15. So it's a really small amount that we get out of these. But that can go there. And then the good thing with this is it's going to flow straight down and fit, hopefully, straight into that assembler. That's the idea. Alright, so we have that in position. So this is almost done. We now need to do basically the same over here, but like kind of the opposite. Not the opposite. What's the word? Like reversed, I guess? Sort of. Right, so we have an output here. We're going to need this to go into a merger. Yeah? Yeah, so this is going to be a merger. And it's going to aim out to the right. So quite simply, this is doing 45. We then have our lift. The pole is over there, so that's 15 coming in. 15 coming in, merging with the 45, and then this can just go into there. That's why I was trying to get that in good position before. So that's steel beams, that's 60. 15 plus 45 is 60, so that's done on its own now. Next up, we have 45 right here. And the output is going right in front of this. So how do we do this one? I know. So, we'll go with a merger here, I think. Just go straight forward. That's 45 and 45. So we need to give this guy 15 somehow. We got to do the same trick we did before, right? So we've got a splitter to come out of here. Yeah, splitter to come out of here. 45 goes in, 15 goes over there, so that's your 60. And then we have to make sure we bring out 2 outputs. Remember, if you only bring out 1, then you're only splitting 2 ways, so it's 45 divided by 2. You need to actually, that's why you have to bring it out that 3rd angle. It's a little finicky, I know, but it's just what you got to do. So what we probably have to do is build a merger here. Name it out that way. So now we've got 15 plus another 15, and then this can just go into its friend, and that's going to be 30. Oh, man. What a tease. Just ran out of iron plates right at the end, huh? Well, I'll tell you what. I can change one of these to a Mark II belt just to get that back real quick. Mark II all the way down. Right, so that's giving me some back just for a little bit here. Okay, at least that's complete. And then we can just send this into there. It's already hooked up to a storage container. And then this one's going to be the final merger. And just go out that way. Alright, hopefully that all made sense. I feel like that was relatively well done. You know, very few mistakes, I hope. So that's all good. Yeah, so this is going to be a Mark II belt now. So we're just going to make sure it's Mark II the whole way down. And it can stay that way there. And I'll just make this one a Mark II as well. The iron line. It's good that it's actually getting dark again because I've just run out of materials. So we're going to head back to base, pick up some materials, and then come back. Alright, the sun is rising. Power is now hooked up, although I haven't connected it to the main grid just yet. The other unfortunate thing is, until we go into the awesome shop and unlock things like the wall connectors and various other different power tools, we just have to actually bring the cables through the ground. I mean, there's not really too much I can do about that. But yeah, so we just have to make the connection just out here, and then we can watch it all power on. Ow, my legs. Alright, so we'll grab this and make the connection. We're seeing the tiniest jump in consumption. Oddly, really tiny, actually. I would have expected way more from the miners, but I guess we're all good. I guess they are Mark I miners. So, there we go. The iron ore is beginning to roll out, and we would expect that the coal is also beginning to roll out on the other side. So let's make a dash upstairs and watch the 2 lines meet. It sort of is like a manifold. It's not, but it's like they're coming from opposite directions. So one group gets its coal first, and then another group gets its iron first, but then they should meet in the middle, I guess. There we go. The first batches of coal are making their way in. Rocking out as fast as they can. And then we have iron that's made its way up flawlessly. Mark II'd out of its mind. Nice. This is going to take a while, isn't it? I was like, oh, it's going to be intense and super cool. Like when we do factories in the late game in my previous series, you power something on, things are moving at 780 resources a minute. You're just like, holy crap, I can't catch up with the belts. This time it's like we just have to wait. Interesting though, this is 135, and that should be 130. Oh no, it can't be, yeah. We're splitting 135 divided by 2. This belt is only using 60, what was that? 67.5, so things aren't really going to run very efficiently for a while. Because unfortunately we don't have a Mark III lift to carry the amount of coal required out of one miner out of here. So it's inherently limited to 120, which we're splitting then by 2. So it's 60 traveling along here. So we're going to get intermittent firing from our foundries. But we can see the first batches of... I should get off this in case I cook my feet. Let's see the first batches of steel ingots rolling along. So just like that. Steel will then roll into its constructors. The constructors are then putting out the steel beams. so durable, I've heard that jet fuel cannot even melt them. Allegedly. Alright. Is that going to start getting shoveled down now? I don't see it traveling down. It might be doing that thing where visually... Oh, there we go. I was going to say visually you don't see it. Sometimes that happens. Man, that's slow. But yeah, it's on its way. And I think we need to store up something like 200, and then we can advance the milestone. So once we just gather 200, we should be good to go. But in the meantime, there's still lots to do. We should hook up the... start working out the logistics for our constructors here. So very quickly, I think I'll just bring... Let me get rid of this. Bring this out so we can see what we're doing down here. It'd probably help if I wasn't literally on top of it. Go to about there for a sec. Just get rid of this. I don't plan on going back in there. Alright, so we're splitting evenly again, right? So we want to put a splitter maybe about here. And then we want another one there. Another one there. And then these just need to be lined up together. So this is going to be one line of limestone bringing in the, well, limestone, and turning it into concrete in these 4 constructors. Alright, super neat. So yeah, this is just going to travel along then, basically. Go all the way up here. And yeah, somewhere down here it's going to have to make a sharp turn. Ow. I should watch doing that, actually. My health is getting kind of low. Alright, somewhere there. So we're going to bring this all the way along down this way. As far as we can go, pretty much, on a foundation seam. And we want to line it up with that. But I think we want to get to the center probably is best. So do something like this. Bring this straight across. And just feed it in. So there we go. Could I have come a bit further with that? No, I don't think so. Although it doesn't look great, does it? I mean, I could angle it, I suppose. There's no harm in trying. I never really do that with miners, but I don't really mind it, as long as it doesn't clip over anything. So if we grab a miner like this... That could work. You have to tell me what you think. Do you think it's weird that it's angled? It might look that way, considering it's on square grid right now, but that we're going to change the material of some of this to concrete and stuff. It won't be as obvious. It'll might even give it some character, to be honest, that's turned. So yeah, so that's going to be limestone traveling along down this way, being split into 4, split evenly into 4, right? So split 2 and then 2 and 2 into these, which are going to be doing 9.38. So if we're doing the logistics of taking the concrete out, we just need to merge all of this onto one line and then split it twice. You could do like these 2 feed into that one, these 2 feed into that one, but I think it's just easier and more elegant to bring it all into one line. They're only making 9.38 per minute anyways, so that seems fine to me. And working from here should be good as well, I think. So yeah, let's do that. And it'll be coming up and over, so we'll just go like this. Right, so the first one merged, second one merged, third one merged, fourth one merged, and then this has to be a lift, and then I might just have to get rid of this for a moment. This is going to be a splitter. To even things out like we did before. Bring that up. Alright, so yeah, there'll be a bit of distance on this one. It's not gonna... Oh, we'll plug in actually. Oh, nice, that's great. I didn't think so. Alright, we just let our steel beams flow for now. So these beams are gonna come down and just go evenly into those 2 machines because they're... Well, we actually can't check again. Damn it. But they're going to take 15 each. They take a really weird number of concrete, but they'll take just 15 steel beams, and there's 30 coming down. So that should be nice. So let's see how much we've got already. 128. Yeah, I think we just need like 200, and then we're like good to go for the first milestone. So I tell you what, while I'm waiting on the machines to kind of load up, I'm going to start doing some of the walls and things here. So the idea was that how I'm going to do the wall is like this. So we got a blank wall here, a standard 4-meter wall. Then I'm going to do a 1 meter, then a 4, then a 1, and just keep alternating it. Not all the way, but until we hit 4 of them. So 1, 2, 3. So we need to do another one. And then that's it. That's as high as we go as well, by the way. Yeah, that's as high as we go. But this will, we're going to paint it and make it kind of interesting. You don't have to do any of this, obviously, if anyone doesn't want to. But I'm just going to try to somewhat make this look a little bit nicer. Alright, so that's a giant wall done. So I'm going to start painting it. I just thought I would show some stuff that's kind of interesting. You can actually save different colors, so you can use it in your custom swatch again. So what I kind of want for this is some sort of like quite a light blue. Actually, that's a pretty perfect color. And you will kind of want to bring these down normally so you get a bit of weathering on the building. If you go super high contrast, it doesn't look very good. It can be very bold and stand out, but a bit of weathering to kind of bring it down a bit, darken it a little bit, and desaturate, I guess, can make it look quite cool. So if we just go like that and go save, I'll call this like, I don't know, well, it's light blue. I guess I was going to call it off blue because it's not full on, but that's fine. And then what we could do with this is bring this all the way down now to sort of like here color. And that's sort of like an off-white. Kind of want it to be a grayish tone, something like that, just as an example. So we'll just call this like, well, I guess it's a pale blue gray, maybe ish. So those are the two colors. Now if we go to load preset, they're in there, light blue and pale blue gray, so we can just use them again. Another good tip while I'm doing this is you can actually use the filters to say that I only want to interact or paint the basic wall 1 meter, which is quite nice, you know. It just kind of works really well. This could be great for if you have like railing or something, because railing can be a little finicky to paint. So if you just take out your swatch and then you press G, then you're filtering, you're painting just that. So I'm holding left click, it's not doing anything, and then you just look over the bits that you want and it just paints that. So that could save you a little bit of misclicking as well. I like to keep my corridors 3 in width and then paint the central band of that corridor. Now sometimes I'll do the full 3 as concrete, but something like this with little exits and entrances depending where they go, with doorways I mean, can be really nice. So we're just going to go all the way down the line here with concrete, and then every now and then where we're interacting with things, where people are walking, that's where the concrete goes. So there's also now going to be a stairwell here. So this is a 3x3 area here. So we'll go like this, change that to a door, and then this can go straight up. And even under here will be asphalt. All this will be asphalt. Anywhere you see the grid is asphalt. But then what we'll have is railing. So railing will kind of guide us in and around this place. Now obviously I jump over this all the time, but I think aesthetically it can look quite nice. I'll probably have to go around and paint this, but I was thinking I could have made a default swatch for it, but I prefer just using the custom one. So something like this. This lets us go straight up, still access our thing, no problems. Look at that, we got 400, 520 now. Boom. So hopefully that's enough to take with me now. And what's in there? 287 steel pipe. Wow. That's pretty good, actually. Alright, cool. So yeah, I'm going to head on to the base. We're going to go back to the hub and see if we can't get ourselves some milestones done and get ourselves unlocked for Industrial Encased Beams. Alrighty, I've arrived back at the hub and I've got everything I need. So we're going to be going with Advanced Steel Production. It's going to give us a Miner Mark II, where the default is doubled from 60 to 120. Encased industrial beams, the ability to make stators, motors, automated wiring, and heavy modular frames. Man, we've just gotten done making regular modular frames. Let's go. So it's going to require some steel pipes, 200 rotors, 1500 wire, and 300 concrete. Let's go. Alright, so I'm back at the Foundry. We just have to actually set these to make encased industrial beams and then hook up their final 2 inputs. That should be easy enough. So encased industrial beam, what we're going to be doing, it normally does 6 per minute, requiring 24 steel beams per minute and 30 concrete per minute, but we're underclocking these to doing just 3.5 each for a total of... sorry, 3.75. My bad. I was thinking something wasn't right. For a total of 7.5. So yeah, 3.75 in these two. So again, I've learned from the previous factory. No point overclocking one machine, right? Might as well just add a second one and underclock it. So that's going to be 3.75. Okay, don't know how I did that. I clicked the number 5 and a power shard went in there. What's up with that? 5? Huh. I guess this is like relevant items. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? That must be why that happened. Oh yeah, and we put steel beams in there. Huh, that's something new. I didn't know that. How do I get rid of this? I'm double clicking it. It's not going away. Right click? Shift left click? There we go. Shift left click works now. Anyway, so that's kind of interesting. I never knew that. So the relevant items are actually on your hotbar, because your hotbar's disappeared. So if I want to put... I mean, how fast are you playing that you're doing this? Like, bum, 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 with a hotkey. But kind of cool to know that you can do it. But we'll just let it fill naturally. It's totally fine. All right, cool. Anyway, so that's going to be, yeah, 3.75 in both of these. All good. They're hooked up to power. All right, so we're just going to sever this and this and this. Right, so this is lined up, as Tars would say. Let's bring that straight in. Bring that across. So our steel beams are flowing down, and bring this across. So you'll notice, underclocked at this rate, the required steel beams is 15 per minute. And we have 30 coming down. So it's a nice even split there. Just one splitter evenly splits into those two. And then, because of the way we've clocked these constructors, they should also be evenly delivering all of their goods too. So we just have to actually hook this up to power. That's the final thing. Might make a break in the thing here. Bring this down. Alright, it's just doing 60 per minute. Can't remember, what did we need? We needed 112 per minute, if we can muster it, which I think we can. So 112.56 per minute is what's required here. It's going to require a Mark II belt though. We'll just follow this belt all the way out and follow it. Alright, and once it goes in there, that... Yeah, what is that? 112.56 divided by 2. That's going to be 56. So a Mark I belt from then on is totally fine. So that's that done. These should all just fire correctly. Just to get the ball rolling, I will actually feed these machines. So there you go. There's your steel. You can have it too. And then we'll just throw in some concrete to get them started. Wow, I really don't actually have that much, thinking about it. I'll just give it all to them. Alright, so now we're making encased industrial beams. Obviously, I've just helped things along momentarily. We're just going to bring this up onto a merger and then send it in. It's the final thing to do for logistics. Merger facing towards me. Come on. Oh my god, I need the concrete. Quickly, before you eat it all. Alright, so one of the nice things, I think anyway, about this build is there's just 3 storage containers out in the open here for us to kind of go and interact with. It's like, oh, okay, 270 beams, we have 160 steel pipes, and now we'll be getting encased industrial beams. So I feel like that's kind of nice. So yeah, I'm just going to continue doing up some of the walls and things. This wall can actually come down. That was just really for us to judge our height. It only needs to go up to 5, and we have to do the kind of layer trick on that. One other thing though, while we're here, I'm probably going to get rid of that tree. I mean, it's a beautiful tree, but I want to put down a big fat pillar. So a big concrete pillar, which we can't afford right now. We do this, go vertical and come straight down. So that'll have to go across, I think it's every 4. Would look good. I'm just trying to work out the rates with how long that building is so that it's even. Anyway, there goes our limestone, feeding in super cleanly. Oh yes. Look at that. So good. And they're all firing on at the same time. 9.38, all rolling out onto a belt of 60, up and over the steel. and then down and under and in to our assemblers. And we're making concrete. And hopefully everything will start to power up to 100%. Once we make a few encased industrial beams and I just grab a bit more steel, we can just start to advance the next few milestones as well. But yeah, I'm just going to do some of the cosmetics. I'm going to go grab some concrete for myself. Alright, so I just spent the last 10 or 15 minutes loading up the hub with everything in every milestone for Tier 4. So expanded power infrastructure is the first one. You get power storage, that's batteries to back up your power in case you're going to have an issue. I think it'd be worthwhile building that into our power plant, actually. The power tower, which is a new addition to Update 8. Don't know too much about it other than the fact that it's like super long distance power lines. There's also one with a platform sort of built onto it. And then there's like multiple lines on it and a line in the center. I think there's 3 lines in total. Need to look into it. I've never actually used it. I don't know if that has anything to do with the power fuse boxes that I think you probably get later. I assume that's later. But super cool addition, and if you have a zip line, you fly through these things, so it's really good, really cool. Speaking of flying, hypertubes. Next one up. Select that milestone. 300 copper sheets, 300 steel pipes, 50 encased beams. None of these required that much. Thinking about it, 200 steel beams, 100 steel pipes. You could easily just sit there and craft this stuff if you really had the patience to do it. But I'm glad that we have the factory up and running. 200 steel beams. Of course, our modular frames are there now as well for the blueprints. Gonna be a massive time saver, that one. So yeah, so hypertubes allow you to get from A to B really quickly. I actually don't really like them because you have to go into third person. There's no first person hypertube travel, which is a shame. I think it's a shame anyway. Maybe it'd be a bit too chaotic. I don't know. I think it's a bit more jarring, the camera jutting in and out of, like, clipping through walls and stuff. And in vehicles, it's, like, totally fine. But when you're in a hypertube, you're literally clipping through walls, the tubes themselves. You have to kind of control the camera to get the orientation right. It's a bit weird. Anyways, Logistics Mark III, that's what we're after. Mark III belts, and they're going to be using these steel beams to be actually making the belts. So we're going to have to wait to save up a bit before we can upgrade the belts. And the blueprints, of course, which we can start utilizing in the next episode. So I've actually dumped all the resources into everything so far, so we're going to hit that button a few times here for each one of these. Some people said you don't have to do this quickly. That's true. I was just joking when I said that before. I said you have to do it before the thing takes off. The thing isn't even there right now for me, so... And I have no idea why. I think it's because we did a milestone and then I ran away. It's actually not taking off. It's not there. I assume it'll come back, though. I hope so. Right, I'm back at the facility. So the goal now is going to be to get this to ramp up to 100% efficiency. So we're going to have to go around and update some of the belts to be Mark III. I think the most important one, because we just overclocked those machines, so they're actually fine for a little while. They're doing their 130, aren't they? Oh yeah, but of course, belt can only take 120. So we'll go to Mark III and begin the upgrade process. Hopefully we've got enough steel beams for this. Alright, so that's all good. I think this one's totally fine for now. And we'll just go upstairs. And then we can actually replace the miners with Mark II miners as well. I'll have to make some portable miners to get ready for that. Alright, so this is the lines. These are the lines that we have to improve. So Mark III, we'll start with the outer one first. So that's that. That's actually really simple and easy. Alright, but these machines are still going to be limited by this side. So, our coal, that's 270 per minute now. And then this divides... So what's 270 divided... Oh, it's 135, yeah. Cool. Alright, so this now needs to be Mark III. Mark III. Oh, we're actually leaving stuff behind. That's annoying. I guess it's because I've just got too much crap in my inventory. Hang on. Throw some concrete here for a sec. I don't like leaving crates around. They get put into really awkward positions. After leaving a few actually behind, I have to go clean them up. Alright, that's that. So that's our Mark III belts pretty much done, I think, right? It's the iron ore. And here, oh, actually, coming out of here needs to be helped as well. Because now these are going to be able to ramp up to 100%. 45 times 3 is 135 as well. So these are going to have to be Mark III at some point. I mean, some of it's been siphoned away, so we're dealing with a Mark... Actually, yeah, we're dealing with Mark II belts here. Because it's 120. So 120 is going into these machines, so I'll leave it at Mark II. That should be fine. This is going to be stay as Mark I. Alright, that should be everything hooked up now. So I've realigned the little error I had there. So now we're nice and even and symmetrical, hopefully. For the most part. And, yeah, the belts are all flowing a lot better now. Things are ramping up in terms of speed, efficiency, so they're ramping up to 100%. In fact, this can't actually get as much of its stuff out as it wants to. That's okay. It'll all probably flush out and be okay soon enough. As long as it's 60 and 60. Is this Mark II? That's Mark II, Mark II. Yeah, this will be okay. They were actually slightly backed up because one of them wasn't hooked up to power this entire time, so that's kind of messed with some of the numbers and stuff. But given a bit of time, these will flow out correctly and it should all straighten itself out. Alright, there she is. What do you think? A super long warehouse followed by another super long warehouse on top, with some pillars to try and make it look fancy. Of course, without cosmetic tools or anything like that, we can't put in windows, you know, without just leaving giant holes in it, I guess. The pillars, I think, kind of break it up. And the two-tiered approach to this, with the two towers as well on the other side, you know, kind of creating some asymmetry, I think looks really good. You know, I think as far as an early game factory goes, without much cosmetic tools, quite happy. Bit of an experiment using these colors and everything, but again, quite happy. So let's just quickly run inside, take a quick look at what's going on. Basically, from what I've checked, everything's running at 100%, so I'm super happy. Everything's working flawlessly, I think. The only thing I'm trying to think of is like, oh, maybe the machines are all running at 100, but maybe I'm not utilizing all the resources as well as I could. I haven't upgraded the miners to Mark II yet. What I'm going to do in the next episode is we're going to visit the coal power plant, and we're going to upgrade that and get we're going to get power rolling up to the next tier of whatever resources we can sustain, right? So we've Mark III belts now, so that's 270 times 4. So we're going to have 1,080 coal fed into generators in that place. So power is just going to massively ramp up, which allows us then for our next factories, when we're setting up automated wiring and stators and things that are needed for the space elevator, we can really, I guess, utilize as much power as possible. So currently at the moment, let's see how we're doing. I've actually got a pretty flat consumption curve, although it's bumping a little bit. I have a feeling that it's not this factory, it's other factories are probably just maxing out their storage containers and things, or something's going wrong somewhere, but I'll track it down. I'll find where it's going, where that's happening. Trust me. I'll need to know. But yeah, everything else seems to be running at 100%. As long as we're not seeing anything at like 80 or 90 on these efficiency lines, it means that it's not this factor that's causing the consumption fluctuations. Yeah, things are looking good. We're seeing some more even spacing now on the belts, which is what we'd like to see, because these are capable of 270. We're only bringing 135 along, so yep, totally makes sense. I added this little walkway bit. I'm not too sold on it, the idea of being able to come out and have a look out to the vista, but I realized, like, without skylights or anything, we can't see downstairs anyway, so there's really no point in this. I just figured that with the conveyor wall holes going down like that, it would make sense to bring this out. I suppose if you're getting creative yourself, you could also just extend the floor out this way and have floor holes go down, and it could be one kind of continuous room slash building. I decided to go for this, like, almost separated look to the area. So we have these big pillars that are standing the building up. We have the 3 floor holes. That's the only thing that I feel like is strange. It's like, oh yeah, these are outside, I guess, you know. But whatever. Let's see what you guys think. Oh, I've actually just left a little bit of roof non-colored up here. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And then, like I said, there's just these random entrances just dotted around for us to kind of come in or come out. Exits and entrances, I guess. We have the railing going all the way around. I never colored the machines. I just left them as they were. Sometimes I accidentally colored them, and I haven't finished the trim all the way around. I haven't had enough of it. I'm spending like hours on it, so I think it's good to go. Ship it. Alright, so I think in the next episode, we're going to upgrade our coal power plant, so really spool that up to utilize the 1,080 coal per minute that we're getting. We're also going to design our first blueprints, maybe build some roads and set up a bit of a transport network, or the early beginnings of one, and also just upgrade anything that can now use Mark III belts or the Mark II miners to crank out a little bit more. It'd be nice to maybe see if we can even start a small copper facility or something like that. Something that can fit into one episode alongside all that other stuff. Alright, that's going to have to be it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.